And now let's break down our next story of the day, the greatest and latest from the Strike CEO, Jack Dorsey, who's predicting a $1 million Bitcoin price. He recently gave an interview, and I transcribed it. I'm going to be sharing that with you right here. I posted it earlier this morning on X. Here's what Jack Dorsey had to share. Western Union can't allow me to pay for coffee. Visa won't allow me to remit money. Lightning, referring to the Lightning Network, does both and better and open and global. And so you guys come play on my court, and let's see who can develop the best experience for the consumer, because I bet all of my life I can build a better experience on the Lightning Network than Jamie Dimon. Preach. And as we all know, Jamie Dimon is the CEO of the largest banking cartel in the United States, known as JP Morgan Chase. Now, he continues and goes on. The other Jack, referring to Jack Dorsey, and I agree with him, thinks of Bitcoin as the currency of the internet because of similar properties that they retain. The internet has actually similar properties to that of the United States of America. There is a freedom and a pining. There is a freedom of coming and going. Everyone's created equal. There is a system of users with no admins, and so it's a system that is designed to be peer-to-peer. And because of that, there is no natural relationship with a nation state or a corporation. And so it is naturally global and it's natively digital, which makes it incredibly accessible, and it doesn't inherently require systems like trust. And so I think that is why it is the currency of the internet, and more specifically, it is the first ever digital bearer instrument. So bytes of data can represent physical value. And so for something like Stripe, Visa payments and promises of future settlement, and so Stripe doesn't actually offer finality within itself. It forwards along messages of promises. Bitcoin doesn't have an actual issuer. Satoshi Nakamoto even paid for his or her or their Bitcoin with energy. And so it's a commodity-like instrument in the truest and most natural form. And that is a very, very important property that even someone like the SEC is beginning to recognize. So I think the combination of those make Bitcoin tremendously unique. It has a big bang type of effect where theoretically, in my opinion, it is impossible to replicate and retain and achieve the properties that Satoshi Nakamoto did. Preach. Massive shout out to Jack Dorsey. And if you missed the $1 million price prediction when he was speaking on CNBC, Dorsey says he is convinced the Bitcoin price will hit $1 million per coin, fueled by global hyperinflation. In fact, quoting him here, there are only two things I can guarantee in this world. Number one, nobody can live forever. And number two, nobody can create more than 21 million Bitcoin. For everything else, there will always be more supply given enough demand. And that is why it's the only two things I truly value in my life, which are my life and Bitcoin. Very powerful words. He also goes on to share, my overall opinion is that the name of the game is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. Alts, referring to the altcoins, are interesting, but a lot more speculative. I use them to accumulate more Bitcoins. And also I, transcribed this interview in full where he makes this $1 million price prediction. And he goes on to share, if silver is going to 1,000x, I'll walk into my kitchen right now and I'll melt all of my silverware and sell it at market. If gold is going to rally, Elon Musk will find more on Mars. This is a super important point. Bitcoin is the only monetary instrument in the history of our species that is fixed. It does not matter how much more demand comes into the asset class. No one will ever be able to make more of it. And I also shared with you his prediction of the two things he can guarantee you in his life, that he'll die and there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. So it is the only fixed supply asset. It's not that complicated. It's going to go up because everything else can be issued more. That's right. Everything goes to zero against Bitcoin, quoting Max Kaiser. Now, the only thing that is clear to us and clear to our customers is that you cannot hold and save in dollars anymore. Preach. I think there is going to be a new era of the US dollar where inflation will enter and normalize at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. The days of 2% inflation are over. The Fed really blew this thing up. You can call it inflation because the CPI is a load of nonsense, right? Like the government is going to tell me how the dollar is inflating based on a basket of instruments. Like my Netflix subscription or my Caesar salad doesn't actually tell me how well the dollar is doing or how much is being devalued. Miami real estate does. Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is up over 50% this year. You're telling me the dollar isn't inflating? You're out of your mind. I am not listening to that. The Fed and the whole monetary system is based on trust, and so they constantly break that trust. It would be the equivalent to there's a fire outside of my house. I smell the smoke, and someone tells me, nah, it's a bunch of teenagers putting on a bonfire. Okay, but I hear a police siren. Are you sure it's a bonfire? Yeah, it's a bonfire. Now I hear 10 sirens 100 sirens. Now a whole community is running out. I'm not going to get up and look outside the window and see what's going on. I don't believe them for a second. You have to be absolutely crazy to believe the Federal Reserve right now. They are full of it, and I don't have to because I own Bitcoin. There is no one that can deflate my instrument. I get to hold it, saving it. I know the monetary policy. I sleep like a baby, like the baby face that I am. So I think you are crazy to believe the Fed and these swap lines and treating these assets at par because it's a gimmick. It's a scam. So there you have it, fam. Very bold words coming from the Strike CEO, Jack Dorsey. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments right down below. And if you gained value out of today's episode, please smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as I greatly appreciate everyone's support.